All right, we're going to talk about the major and the trace minerals. Your learning objectives for these two chapters. You'll be able to identify the main role of deficiency symptoms and food sources for each of the major minerals and each of the trace minerals, and you'll also be able to identify contaminant minerals. We're going to start with the major minerals. In the module, there is an assignment that says Mineral Information Chart. You're going to want to download that and so that you can take notes directly on that chart. So the first one is sodium. There is not an RDA for it. It is an AI, and it's 1,500 milligrams per day. There's also not an upper limit, even though I do have a UL listed here. There is no true UL for sodium. There is this number, 2,300 milligrams per day, which we have discovered anything above that will increase your risk of chronic diseases. So we suggest that people don't go over 2,300 milligrams per day. The function of this mineral, it maintains fluid and electrolyte balance, nerve impulses, and muscle contractions. Some of the good food sources, of course, table salt. It's made up of two minerals, sodium and chloride. Soy sauce, as you probably are well aware, is very salty, and pretty much all processed foods. Salt is used as a preservative, so salt or sodium is in a lot of foods that are processed. Deficiency symptoms, and these usually don't happen because you don't eat enough sodium. These happen because you're either vomiting or have diarrhea or you're sweating or you're losing a lot of sodium. And you could get a headache, be confused, or stupor. Toxic symptoms, as I said, there are no toxic levels, but it does increase your risk of chronic diseases. I want to talk about sodium and bone loss. The more sodium you take in, the more your body excretes calcium. So a high sodium intake is associated with osteoporosis because you are excreting calcium. The other thing is that processed foods, like I just said, have the most sodium, and unprocessed foods, like fresh fruits and vegetables, have the least amount of sodium. So the recommended upper limit is 2,300 milligrams, and the average sodium intake in the United States is 3,400 milligrams. So that doesn't fare well for decreasing our risk of chronic diseases. The next one is chloride, and these two usually go hand in hand, sodium chloride, because that is table salt. It also has an AI at 2,300 milligrams per day and an upper limit of 3,600 milligrams per day. It too plays a role in maintaining fluid and electrolyte balance, but chloride is also part of the hydrochloric acid that helps digest our foods. So it's found in our stomach and our gastric juices. So the good food sources are the same sources that we saw on a previous slide for sodium, and deficiency symptoms do not normally occur. Also see them in people that vomit a lot, like bulimics. And toxicity symptoms, if you get too much chloride, you usually vomit. It's your body's way of getting rid of some extra chloride. Potassium. This also has an AI, 3,400 milligrams for males and 2,600 milligrams for females. There is no upper limit for potassium. It has a number of roles in the body. It helps maintain fluid and electrolyte balance. It helps maintain cell integrity, and it aids in nerve impulse transmission and muscle contractions. Good food sources: meat, milk, fruits, vegetables, grains, and legumes. It is pretty much found in all the food groups. So you could probably find you're probably already eating a good source of potassium. The pictures I have here are tomatoes, bananas, and potatoes. They're excellent sources of potassium. If you're deficient in potassium, you'll have an irregular heartbeat. You could feel weak, your muscles could feel weak, or you may also be intolerant to glucose. Your toxicity symptoms are muscle weakness, vomiting, and if it is injected directly into the bloodstream, it can stop the heart. Calcium. Calcium does have an RDA for adults up to age 50. It's 1,000 milligrams per day, and the upper limit is 2,500 milligrams per day. The roles in the body are the mineralizations of bones and teeth. That's usually what everyone reports first, but it has a lot of other roles like muscle contraction and relaxing, nerve functioning, blood clotting, blood pressure. Good food sources are milk and milk products, fish with the bones. So I have a little picture of sardines up there. Sardines are very tiny fish, and you normally eat not only the flesh of the fish, but you eat its bones with it. And if you're eating their bones, which is where they have a lot of calcium, you're going to get that in your body. And some leafy greens also have calcium in it. Deficiency symptoms: we can see stunted growth in children or osteoporosis in adults. And toxicity symptoms: you could feel constipated, you could have kidney stones, and those would be calcium stones, which could lead to kidney dysfunction. And calcium is well known for interfering with the absorption of other minerals. So I like to talk a little bit about bone development throughout your life. Between the ages of 0 and 20, we're pretty much growing. So we need a lot of calcium to grow. And so we see bone growth. After 20, we don't see much growth after that. But between the ages of, I'm going to say 13 and 30, you can put away or store as much calcium as possible. So peak bone mass, that's the ages. I'm going to say 13 or 14 up till about the age of 30. And that will provide you with denser bones. And hopefully, if you've stored enough calcium away when you're younger, you will experience less bone loss when you're older. So there's a period of time where we will start removing calcium from our bones if we are not taking in enough on a daily basis. So it's important to get all of the calcium that's required in this age group, or else when we get over here, you'll start seeing signs of, you'll see osteoporosis in older people. And the problem with that is that you don't know you have osteoporosis until you break something. Next one is phosphorus. Calcium and phosphorus work together. Its RDA is 700 milligrams per day with an upper limit of 4,000 milligrams. It also has a role in mineralization of bones and teeth. It has another role in creating your genetic material. Energy transfer, we saw ATP has phosphorus as part of it. And it also plays a role in acid-base balance. Good food sources are foods that provide a lot of protein. So egg, milk, nuts, legumes. And if you're deficient, you can feel some pain in your bones or muscle weakness. And if you have too much, it deposits calcium stones in non-skeletal tissues. So instead of having, calcium deposited into your bones, it may be in underneath your skin, or it could be in your kidneys. It can be anywhere but bones, and that's if phosphorus is high. Next one is magnesium. RDA for men is 400 milligrams per day, and women is 310 milligrams per day. And the upper limit from non-food sources is 350 milligrams per day. So this is things like medication. We see magnesium is used a lot in medications, like milk of magnesia has magnesium. Take more than the required dose or the suggested dose, you could run into toxic levels of magnesium. No, we cannot get them from food, toxic levels from food. The roles in the body, it too plays a role in making your bones strong. It also plays a role in energy metabolism and muscle contractions. Good food sources are nuts, legumes, and green leafy vegetables. If you don't have enough, you might feel muscle cramps, tetany, or seizures. And toxicity symptoms, again, usually from non-food sources. They're rare, but they can be fatal. You could have diarrhea, nausea, abdominal cramps, or metabolic alkalosis. Sulfate is the last of the major minerals. There is no recommended intake and no upper limit. It stabilizes the protein shape, and it's part of biotin and thiamine. We find it in protein-rich foods like meat, fish, poultry, eggs, legumes, nuts, and milk. And it's rare to be deficient in it unless you have no protein in your diet. And that, of course, would be very hard to do. And there are no toxicity symptoms. And those are your major minerals.